Ursula, can you unmute yourself so we can do a sound check for you? Okay, we cannot hear you, Ursula. We will come back to you. Emily Hayden, can we do a mic check for you?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect, thank you. Eric, let's do a mic check for you. We see you joined.
Sorry, I didn't do my volume. So can you hear me all okay?
Yes, now we can hear you. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks. I see a number from MCAG has joined. Can we identify you, please? Director Oliveira, we have unmuted you on our end. Can we do a sound check for you? Joe, can you hear us? It looks like you've unmuted yourself, but we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me?
There you are. You are unmuted on our end, so you can mute yourself on your end as need be. Hi, Joy. Are you the 3153 number?
Hello, this is Joe Oliveira joining the meeting.
Hi, Joe. Can you hear us?
Yeah, hear you well.
Perfect. You can mute yourself on your end as needed.
Okay.
Hello, this is Joy.
Hi, Joy. We've got you. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Gregoria, we've unmuted you on our end. Will you be giving the Caltrans report today?
Yes, I will. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for checking in with me. I really appreciate that.
Your volume is extremely low. Is it possible for you to turn it up on your end?
Is that better?
Oh, yes, 100% better. Thank you so much.
Oh, and I just wanted to share that Dennis wanted to apologize. He will not be able to attend this meeting, but he will be attending the next one. And I'll also notice that during my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are unmuted on our end, so you can mute on your end as needed. Christina Mraz, can we do a mic check for you?
I'm here. I'm not presenting today though, so.
Okay. And Nav, can we do a mic check for you?
Good afternoon, Mayor Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. And I see Stacy, and Matt, we are promoting you to panelist. So let's just wait 1 second. We'll do a mic check for you. Matt, can we do a mic check for you?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Stacy, can we check your audio?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, thank you. Director Silvera, we see you've joined. Can we check your mic?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. Thank you so much. Let's see.
Hello?
Director Lohr, can we check your audio, please? Director Lohr, can we check your mic? Director Lohr, we can't hear you. We're going to mute and unmute you again to see if that prompt will help. Director Creighton, is that you that's joined?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Director Lohr, can we try you again? Still cannot hear her. Director Pereira, can we check your sound?
Check. God bless. Check. You hear me?
Oh, you are very quiet, Lloyd. Can you turn up your volume at all?
Hold on. Let me pull my. Okay. Can you hear me better now?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Director Murphy, we see you've joined. We are unmuting you on our end.
Great. Hi, Mayor Michael.
Hi there. We can hear you. Sounds good. Let's see. We have a phone number ending in 231. We are unmuting you. Are you a board member?
Hey, Mary Michael, this is April.
April, oh, perfect. We've got you. Are you just joining by phone, or will you be joining on a device as well?
For right now, I just need to run down something real quick in the car, so I was going to just leave it on the phone, and then when I get back, I'll put it on Zoom.
Okay, we will look out for you then. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Aguilar, can we check your sound?
You guys hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. Let's go back to Ursula Stock. Can we check your mic, please?
Hello.
Is that Ursula?
Yes, this is Ursula. Hello.
Perfect, we can hear you. Thank you.
Great, thank you for checking.
Director Lohr, we are trying you again. Can we check your mic? Lee, we see that you have unmuted yourself, but we cannot hear you. I'm not sure what's happening. Director Villalta, we see you've joined. Just give us a second to unmute you. And then we can check your sound.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Creighton, or Mr. Chair, one second, I see Director McDaniel has joined. Let's get him unmuted. And Director Lohr has rejoined.
I am here. This is Darren.
We can hear you. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Lee. Sorry I was having technical difficulties, but I hope you can hear me.
We can. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm not sure if that was something on our end, but looks like we got it figured out. Thank you. Mr. Chair, it appears that we have all the directors except for Director Espinoza on the line right now. So I'll defer to you on when you want to call the meeting to order.
Mr. Chair, this is Stacy. I received word from Director Espinoza earlier today that he was unable to join the meeting.
Okay. Let me pull the, I'm doing everything off of my iPhone, so I have to pull the agenda up here. Can you guys hear me okay? Hello?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Okay, let's call this meeting of the MCAG Governing Board to order. August 20th, 2020 at 3:04 p.m. Roll call.
Thank you. Director Aguilar,
Here.
Director Espinoza, Director Hogue,
Here.
Back doors open.
Director Lohr,
Here.
Director McDaniel,
Present.
Director Murphy,
Here.
Director Oliveira,
Here.
Director Pereira,
Here.
Director Silvera,
Present.
Director Villalta,
Here.
Chair Creighton.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Okay. I just want to say something to the other board members and staff. There's a new line sentence added to the agenda information at the top of your packet. It says the directors of the MCAG Governing Board and the general public receive the complete packet at least 72 hours prior to each regular meeting and at least 72 hours prior to each regular governing board convening. So I just wanted to post that so that everybody knows that you guys get the agenda at least 72 hours prior, maybe even sometimes up to a week before. So as I go through this, I'm making assumptions that you guys have already read your packet and you're ready with questions so that we could move this in a little more of a timely fashion. But I also want to make sure you guys have all your questions answered. So I'm not trying to move too fast. We need to make sure that you guys get your questions answered. You have all the time in the world to do what you need to do. But we're going to try to speed these meetings up a little bit because one, the brownouts that are happening, and I've heard from several other board members that it's difficult to sit through 3-hour meetings. So we're going to try to do as quickly as we can, but take all the time in the world we need to answer all your questions. Just wanted to make sure I covered that.
Director Creighton?
Yes, who's this?
Yes, Mike Villalta. Last night, if I may make a comment, last night at our city council meeting, we were worried about a brownout also. And if that happens during this meeting, if even one member has to drop out, are we going to then stop the meeting and if they can't listen in and then continue to another time?
I think as long as we have a quorum, we'll continue unless, that's a good question. I would like to continue as long as we have a quorum, but let's hear what the other directors want to say on that. Does anybody have comments on that?
Yeah, Chair Creighton, this is Director Murphy.
Welcome.
I would say we continue if we have a quorum. We had the same issue at our council meeting. I think you could probably get on a mobile device, even if you don't have power.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members? Hearing none. Mayor Volta, that's probably what we're going to do is continue if it does happen. If somebody does happen to lose power or disconnect, please reach out to staff or myself and make us aware of that, and we'll try to accommodate you as we continue with the meeting.
Oh, thank you. And my point was I didn't want to disadvantage any member. They may want to talk about a particular item. So let's just see what happens, and then we can play it by ear until that point comes. Maybe not.
Okay. Joy?
Yes.
Did I skip over anything, or do you need to read anything before we move on with the agenda?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So item 2, approval of agenda.
This is
This is
Director.
Director Silvera. I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second, Lore.
I'll do roll call. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Thank you, Joy, for doing that. Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Public comment?
Chair Creighton, we have not received any public comment.
Item 4, minutes.
Lore, move to approve.
McDaniel.
Thank you. I'll do roll call. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 5, citizen advisory report. Ursula Stock.
Hello. We had a meeting on Friday, August 7th, and action items approved were minutes of July 10th, 2020 Citizens Advisory Committee meeting and the Federal Transportation Improvement Program Amendment 20. All other items were just information items. So we had a COVID-19 update from Stacy and transportation planning Measure B update, a Transit Joint Powers Authority from Merced County monthly update, Federal Transportation Improvement Program Amendment 19, the GIBS annual report, MCAG newsletter July 2020, and also MCAG newsletter August 2020, minutes of the July 16th, 2020 MCAG Governing Board meeting and calendar of meetings, conferences, and events. There were no special announcements.
Thank you. Did any board members have any questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Ursula. Item 6, quarterly contract status report for all agencies. Lisha Jones.
Mr. Chair, this is Stacy. These are listed just for transparency purposes and so that the board can have some information on the status of the contracts that have been previously approved. So unless there were any questions about the materials that Alicia is happy to answer, this is for information purposes.
Board, do you have any questions? Hearing none. Move on to Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County. Item number 7, Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County monthly update. Christine.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. I wanted to share you a very brief update on transit and what we've been up to. So the July ridership is indicating a reduction in ridership. It's trended still about 45%. You have heard that we have reduced service. We're currently operating on a weekend schedule on weekdays, and that is to address the issue where we've been extremely fortunate during the pandemic to be able to continue to provide full service throughout the pandemic, and we've reached a point where additional modifications are needed. It's just kind of the storm where we've had some driver shortages that were inherited from our previous contractor, compounded with the Department of Motor Vehicles being closed, delay in shipping parts for the vehicles. We're taking just kind of a step back to make sure that we're providing service in a safe and effective manner. So we've reduced service for about 2 weeks, and we're going to continue to evaluate it on a weekly basis. As of now, it's still trending to go the full 2 weeks, and we'll be evaluating that on a weekly basis and getting the passengers back to normal transit services as soon as feasible. We are offering dial-a-ride services in locations where fixed route is not feasible during the service hours that we're currently providing. The CARES Act funding, we've received news late in the month that we would be receiving an additional allocation of our rural 5311 funding for CARES Act. We are being allocated it's $1,143,934 during the phase 2 allocation for 5311. So the idea is to use that funding towards operating expenses and offset some of our capital needs with funding that we had allocated for operations. And lastly, the Transit Administration building, working on getting some engineering details so that we can get that facility built for additional office spaces, utilizing grant fund that's been secured in years back for the Transit Administration staff. So that's my update. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Directors, do you have any questions? Okay, Christine, thank you. Consent agenda, item number 8.
This is Director Silvera. Chair, motion to approve.
Second, Lohr.
Thank you. I'll do roll call. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item 9, authorization of operating assistance grant application submittal for the coronavirus aid relief and Economic Security Act for Federal Transit Administration, Section 5311, Program Phase 2 for federal fiscal year 2020. Christine?
Thank you, Chair. So the 5311, this is the CARES Act funding that I just indicated we received late in the month. We're requesting authority for filing the 2020 grant application on behalf of TJPA and getting the executive director to sign and execute related documents as indicated. Does anybody have any questions on the item?
This is Director Silvera. Motion to approve.
Second, Lohr.
Thank you. Roll call. Director Aguilera,
Yes.
Director Hope,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Director Creighton says aye. Merced County Association of Government, item number 10, Caltrans brief report, Caltrans District 10. Who do we have?
This is Stacy, Mr. Chair. I had a great conversation earlier this week with District 10 Director, or Acting Director, Dennis Agar. He did extend his apologies that he was not able to attend this week's meeting, but he is preparing an update for the board based on kind of a rundown of the projects that we had been working with Dan McElhaney on before his retirement last month. So Dan and I are working on getting him before the board, if not in September, very soon.
Okay, great. Item 11, information discussion only.
Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, we have both Gregoria Ponce and Tom Dumas from Caltrans on the line. I'm thinking probably one of them are here to give the report today.
Okay, I thought Stacy was done. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Gregoria Ponce. I'm the Deputy District Director for Planning, Acting, and I do have some items to share, so thank you so much. First of all, I wanted to share that Caltrans adopts the action plan to increase walking and biking statewide. There was a $100 million reservation issued for active transportation improvements as part of the 2020 SHOP. And it represents, significant funding commitment to integrate bicycling and pedestrian improvements just to support our non-motorized users. So at this time for phase 1, we do have some investments coming out in several counties. And for phase 2, for looking at projects, we'll definitely be looking at Merced to see where we can come in and look at the projects to have within the county. More information on that can be found on the Caltrans site, catplan.org. I can provide the link through notes if someone would want that. For the excuse me, for the climate change vulnerability.
I'm sorry, Gregoria, this is Stacy. We can barely hear you, but it's very, very difficult. Is there, can you get closer to the microphone?
Yes, hi.
Oh, so much better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Caltrans recently completed the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment Report. We've finalized the last 2 of the 12 district-based climate change assessments reports. The assessments, again, they examine elements such as rising average temperatures, sea level rise, storm surge, precipitation. These in turn increase incidents of flooding, drought, wildfires, coastal erosion, and mudslides. We've been able to put these on a platform to share the reports and as well as the statewide data in the form of interactive online maps to facilitate use of the information for those who wish to do so for their own analysis. Moving from there, Caltrans recently completed the California Freight Mobility Plan 2020. looking at the immediate and long-term policy strategies and investments necessary to support the complex network for transportation goods. The plan focuses on strengthening the state's existing infrastructure and making strategic improvements to further develop a freight system while protecting communities and the environment. We recently approved more than $146 million for 166 public transportation projects to reduce greenhouse gas. And that was through our low carbon transit operations program. There are 2 specific projects totaling nearly $600,000 that were awarded. And one of them is the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced. And the second one is the Yosemite Area Regional Transportation System. Moving to innovation, Caltrans is repaving a roadway with recycled plastic bottles. We're always looking at ways to be innovative and also address the needs of the department. So Highway 162 in Oroville is using recycled asphalt pavement and liquid plastic made with single-use plastic bottles. It is a pilot project, and it features work on 3 lanes of a 1,000-foot highway segment. We'll be looking at testing the material throughout the state, but it'll be based on this pilot project to see how well this works. Moving from there, the last item I have, I wanted to congratulate Merced County and their staff on a very well-written and successfully awarded Sustainable Communities Transportation Planning Grant, the Franklin Beechwood Interconnectivity Plan. And we look forward to working with our Merced partners and moving that forward. At this time, I have no other items to report. If anyone has any questions for me.
Directors, you have any questions?
Chair, this is Director Silver. I have one question. Did the former director, McElhaney, did he retire or did he move up the ladder?
He did retire.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members?
Yeah, this is Lloyd Pereira. And on North State Highway 59 at the intersection of Turlock Road, the oak trees are causing some site issues to be able to pull out from the stop sign. So I was wondering if you could let the local crews know that they might look at it.
Can definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other board? Thank you, Lloyd. Any other board members? Hearing none, thank you very much for your report. Moving on to item 11, information discussion only. Stacy?
Sorry. These are all information items. Unless a board member has any particular item that they have questions on, they're included in your packet for information purposes.
Board members, you have any questions? Hearing none, we'll move to item 12, consent agenda.
Chair, this is Director Silvera. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, Pereira.
Thank you. I'll do roll call vote. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Director Creighton, yes.
Thank you.
Item 14, Measure V Implementation Plan Status Report. Matt Fell. Information only.
Oops. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good afternoon. Had three things I wanted to let you know. One is that we have released a request for proposals for updating the short range transit plan. It's been a few years since we did that. So we're looking forward to getting some good proposals and starting that up by December and completing that by next summer. So that'll provide a lot of good information to Christine, the Transit Joint Powers Authority. A lot has changed in the last few years, so that's an important thing that we're going to be doing soon. The unmet transit needs, we are doing that coming up pretty soon. We are doing that early October is when we're looking at having the public hearing. And of course, because of the COVID situation, for this cycle, we're looking at having that be a Zoom meeting. So we have had in-person meetings in the past, but just to let you know that we're looking at just doing the Zoom meeting. And we, a couple of years ago, implemented an online survey, and most of the responses and feedback have been coming in through that survey. So we anticipate that that will be the case this year as well. So that flyer will be coming out within the next month or so for announcing that hearing in early October. And then lastly, I wanted to let you know that the state is doing a couple major planning processes. One is called the California Transportation Plan 2050. They'll be releasing the draft of that plan soon and accepting comments for a couple months. So that's an important document that we will look at and comment on and possibly comment on from a valley-wide basis. And then following from that, they are doing the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan. And that's the one that looks at highway and rail and the top priorities statewide for those. So of course, Highway 99 and I-5, Interstate 5, have been on that top priority list in the state for a long time. But the issue for us is that a few years back, they took part of Highway 152 off that priority list. So the portion from I-5 over to Highway 101 is still on that list, but from 5 to 99, they took that off. So we'd like to get that back on there. There are other east-west routes in the valley that also we would, valley-wide, we share this concern. So we'll be working with the valley. And one of the concerns that we have is that there doesn't seem to be enough time to provide for stakeholder input. So if they're going to have a short window for comments, you know, we would like to have more opportunity to have comments on that particular plan. So these documents feed into those funding decisions that they make at the state with their funding sources that they control. So that's why it's important for us to make our case for our routes. Those are the updates I have for you. If you have any questions, I could answer those for you.
Matt, on that topic right there, will staff provide those comments for each jurisdiction for those in those jurisdictions to be able to sign off on, draft those and get to like the different agencies within the board?
Yeah, we can do that. So for the California Transportation Plan, there should be plenty of time for us to prepare some comments and coordinate with our Valley partners. And we can bring you those comments either before or after we submit them. For the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, depending on the timing, we may or may not have, you know, it may not be an action item. We would bring those to you, but I will keep you updated on that, how that goes. And the Valley, we're already kind of talking about this. So I anticipate us drafting something even before the official comment period starts, perhaps. But yeah, you know, needless to say, because it's such a issue of importance to us, I'll make a note to do that, to make sure that we circulate something for this board to see, because there may be things that we want to add to those comments.
Director McDaniel, question to you regarding RCRC. With this item that Matt's talking about, can we get something from RCRC to back up Merced County?
Probably not. It represents all 37 rural counties. I can't see RCRC doing anything like that. They usually don't do anything county by county individually.
Okay. Any other board members have
But I
any?
will inquire for sure.
Please, if you don't mind. Any other board members have any questions? Hearing none, we will move on. We are on item 15, correct, Joy?
14, Chair.
14, Measure V Implementation Plan Status Report, Matt Fell, information only. I thought we just did that. Okay, Matt's got 3 in a row. Item 14.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, yeah, this is an information item. We wanted to share some information about Measure V implementation plan. So as you know, revenues from sales tax we're expecting those to go down. We don't have all the latest information on that, but we know that we're expecting those revenues to decline. So what we wanted to do was look at, might that impact our implementation plan projects? And so we did an analysis of that. And so this is looking at these projects here on the east side and the west side in the adopted implementation plan. And just as a reminder, that implementation plan gets updated every 2 years. And that will be coming up next year for adoption by next fall. So at this time, it looks like these projects are okay for the next 2 years, both on the east and the west. So as an example, in your packet, there's a analysis of how much money is in the bank right now and how much is programmed. So for example, on the west side, there's already $9 million in the bank, and the programming for the next few years is less than that. So there's enough cash in hand to fund these specific projects on all of these projects components, and there would be enough for the year after that too, as long as at least some amount of money comes in, as long as there's not a huge reduction, a sustained and very large reduction in revenue. On the east side, it also looks like we're okay for at least a couple years. If revenue were to drop 40%, there would still be enough to meet the obligations for the next 2 years, but there wouldn't be any wiggle room. And so that kind of is the setup for the conclusion. At this time, it looks like the next implementation plan, there might have been an opportunity to add some programming, and of course the board can still, the regional project committees on the west and east can still consider that, and we'll be bringing information as we develop the next implementation plan. But it now appears that it might be risky to add any programming. So of course those are decisions to be made, but we wanted to just kind of check on the health of the revenue versus the programming. And of course, we'll keep you updated as we learn more, but that's kind of a snapshot of where it is now. At least on the regional project side, it looks okay. And this is not speaking to the local revenue side. So, as soon as we get that 50% of the money from the state, we pass that on. And so if those revenues decline, you will see that, like you will see with your other revenue that's based on sales taxes. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer that for you.
Directors, you have any questions?
Chair Creighton, this is Silvera. Question, Matt, do we know yet where we fell out in the 1920 fiscal year?
Where we what? I'm sorry?
Where we felt like, where did we end up on dollars collected?
So we don't have the final numbers because, and this is something that we'll be talking about more in the months to come. Apparently the state sent out too much, I guess, and Nav would have to speak to this if you wanted to know more about this, but apparently the last, I guess it was the May payment, they sent out too much. So we don't know what the actuals actually are yet. I don't think we've seen the June numbers yet. But what we can do is bring that information to you as soon as we have it. So that might be next month or the month after that.
Well, tell the state if they sent too much, that sorry about their bad housekeeping.
Yeah.
We should be able to keep it.
Right.
Director Silvera, so what's going to happen is they're going to have a correction in the next couple months. They'll be sending out a letter basically saying when the correction and how they're going to take that money, reduce our future allocations. And so we're waiting on the letter. Once we get the letter, we will update the board on what the state process is going forward. This is not just Measure B, it's all sales tax across state of California.
I would make sure that if we can, Nav, if we have a way of like, we know what that, I don't trust them. I don't trust that it's sure is convenient that they overpaid us when they're short of money. Now they want to take money back. I would like to see justification on like why they overpaid us and what happened and all those good things to make sure it all passes the smell test.
Yeah, and we have an auditing firm, HDO, to help us out with that. You know, they basically audit all the sales transactions, and what they'll do is they'll look at what the actual receipts were and what the state overpaid by, and they'll give a justification if what they're taking is correct or not correct for us.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
And I'll just add, Mr. Chair, if I could, this is Stacy. You know, and I forgive me if this was already mentioned, but this is happening statewide. It wasn't just specific to Measure B and just specific to MCAG. So HDL is really in the thick of this. And quite frankly, they came on board with us in the perfect time to really kind of, you know, bird dog this for us. So he indicated, Wayne with HDL, that there would be, you know, some communication that the state hasn't been real quick in providing the letter and the information behind what had happened and how it's going to be rectified. But, you know, we'll of course keep you all updated as that process moves forward.
Okay, any other board members have questions? Hearing none. Item 15, approval of use federal planning carryover funding to update yard short range transient plan. Action item, Matt Fell, and then we'll go to public comment after Matt delivers it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is an action item. Staff is proposing to add a study to the work program to update the Yosemite Area Regional Transportation System short-range transit plan using federal planning carryover funding. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about both of those things. So some background on federal planning funding. So MCAG receives what's called Metropolitan Planning Funds, provides the backbone of the funding for our transportation planning, the work program elements 100 through 190. We usually get about $750,000 a year. And in the past, it has been our practice, just like smaller agencies, to accumulate funds over several years so that we can pay for very large expenditures like the Regional Transportation Plan, which was over $500,000. And that is coming up soon. So it's actually been our practice to accumulate these funds. However, Federal Highways Administration and Caltrans have emphasized that they would prefer that we do not carry over any more than 100%. So in other words, they would like us to get our $750,000 a year and not have any more than an additional $750,000 on hand. And so they're asking us to show how we can reduce that balance. In the past, we've had a pretty large balance, but it's been about 200%, which is about the ballpark that we're at right now. I think our estimate of what we're going to be at the end of June 2020 is about 1.4 million. So that's 190%. So we do have a plan for getting that funding down, but we are also looking at ideas for the next work program, and we'll be coming to you with more information about that and getting your input on ideas for the next work program. But also there is that balance that we want to work on bringing that down. So that's the planning funds. And then on the other side, the YART short range transit plan. So YARTS, just like many other transit agencies, is experiencing numerous challenges related to COVID. ridership declines, revenue declines, operational safety concerns. And so what YARTS really needs is a deep dive at those financial components. So in their existing short-range transit plan, that information needs to be updated and looked at and see how that affects the outlook of the service. And so it seems like a good fit, since that's an urgent need, and Stacy or Christine might want to talk about that in just a moment, but since that's an urgent need for YARTS, staff's proposing that we use that carryover funding up to $100,000 to update those financial portions of the YARTS plan, so that YARTS will have a good solid financial basis for as they move forward into the future. And I think that would be a good segue to Stacy to make some comments and answer any questions about the YARTS portion of that.
Okay, Stacy?
Yep, thank you, Matt. I'll just add to that you know, just to emphasize that YARTS did not receive the significant investment from the CARES Act funding that, oh, I'm supposed to turn on my video, I think, that other transit agencies have. And on top of that, you know, the way that the system is funded, all of the funding revenue sources have been impacted, from the National Park Service with the closure of the park, through the throughway agreements that we have with Amtrak. All of those revenue sources have been impacted by COVID. And we're really at the point where, as we prepare for the future of this service, particularly in a post-COVID world, we have to deal with those budget realities and what those impacts or implications might be for service. That's not an easy task, but I think the timeliness of it works really well, because we have a short-range transit plan that isn't old enough to collect dust, but it did raise really important questions that, with the COVID experience on top of that, if we're able to get, and as Matt mentioned, dig into those soon, it can really help us put some building blocks in place to make the system stronger as it moves forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the service or the budget or the proposal.
Okay, this time we'll open it up to the public for public comment. Any members of the public?
There were no public comments received on this item, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the board.
Chair, this is Director.
Go ahead, Silvera. Silvera?
Chair, Director Silvera, I motion to approve item 15.
McDaniel, second.
Member Creighton?
Go ahead, Volta.
Yes, just a side note, Matt. Before we take a vote on this, where are we with the over the hill bus study?
Sure. Yeah, we the West Side Commuter bus study is underway. Farron Piers and staff had a meeting recently where they shared some of the preliminary. So what they've been doing is collecting the big data from Streetlight, and they shared like a glimpse at their preliminary look, and then they're going to be compiling that into information that's going to be put into the plan. So that's well underway, and then they're looking at options for outreach. And we talked about communicating with City of Los Banos, City of Gustine, City of Dos Palos, the county, and anyone who can help connect the consultant who's doing the study with commuters, so people who might potentially use such a service. So that's going to be coming up soon. They're planning on using some online platforms, but they want to get as much information as they can from people who might use such a service, so that they can help build the market analysis part of that study. Still on track for early next year completion. And if that outreach hasn't already occurred with the City of Los Banos staff, it will be very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Motion and a second. Joy?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr. I'm sorry, Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta,
Yes.
Chair Creighton.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 16, approve delegation of authority to execute director to enter into congestion mitigation air quality exchange agreement. This is an action item. Ty?
Mr. Chair, I'll take this one, but Ty is on the line in case there are any questions.
Thank you, Matt.
So basically what this is that the board has authorized exchange agreements in the past a few times. Twice were recently. And in the past, those always had enough time for those to be brought to the board. And in the future, if there is enough time to bring those to the board, we would continue to do so. But recently, unexpectedly, there was an opportunity to do this that was presented in August, which is another unusual thing. Usually these sorts of things happen earlier, but this came, unexpectedly, and there wasn't time to bring it to the board, this particular opportunity. And so what we're doing, what we're requesting is a delegation of that authority to the executive director. So if such an opportunity comes up, and the reason this is important is because in the past, what these have done is protected basically the spending authority. And so it helps all of our CMAQ projects proceed. Sometimes there's project delivery delays with these CMAQ projects, as you might know. Your staff has to deal with these various project delivery issues. So this would protect basically that balance that funds those projects. And again, we've successfully done this in the past, and it's been beneficial to the region and those individual projects. And having this in place would enable staff to react if there's such an opportunity in the future where there isn't time to bring it to the board.
Directors, you have any questions?
Chair Creighton,
Move to approve.
this is Murphy.
Go ahead, Murphy.
So I understand the reason for it. I'm just looking at the resolution we're being asked to adopt, and it's that the director be given the authority to enter into exchange CMAQ agreements to exchange CMAQ funds. Is there any thought to putting any additional bounds around that in terms of what those exchange agreements look like, or the circumstances under which they wouldn't be brought to the board?
Stacy, can you
it has worked
elaborate?
over time to have it come to the board. We just sort of had this unique experience, it sounds like.
Yeah, this is Stacy, Mr. Chair and Director Murphy. I can say that, when we were originally talking about this, and I think let me just cut to the chase. I think probably the easiest way to approach it would be to limit the authority in the situations that exist only when there isn't enough time to bring it to the board. So only very specifically in instances where we are in a situation that we could potentially lose funding, or that there was some 2-week window where we don't literally have the time to come to the board, that I would have the authority to do that and then put it on the board agenda as an FYI at that next board meeting. Those are certainly fewer and far between, but they do occur, as we just saw. So I think that gets to the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, and I think that would be a good addition to that.
Okay.
Any other board members have comment? We have a motion by Volta.
No.
Who is the motion?
Pereira.
Okay, by Director Pereira.
Okay, there was, just to clarify, I mean, there was some, I think, willingness on Stacy's part to narrow that down, I think. Is that the desire of the board or not?
Yeah, as the maker of the motion, I'll accept that.
Okay. I'd second that.
Motion, this is McDaniel.
Okay, Joy, can you repeat the motion with the amendment?
The motion would be to delegate authority to the executive director to enter into CMAQ exchange agreements with the addition of a restricted time frame.
This is Stacy. I can say delegate authority to the executive director to enter into CMAQ exchange agreements in the event that time does not allow board action. Does that work?
I think Murphy's looking for not an indefinite, but a time frame.
Yeah, that
Can you
works. I
guys-
mean, that works for me. Yeah.
Okay, then that's
it
fine.
would essentially mean that we would have to have action almost within a 2-week window, because other than that, we're getting pretty close, 3 weeks, I would say. So, but yeah, I think that would work, that we would say it would be only in the event that the time frame does not allow board action.
As a second, I accept that.
Okay, so you have a motion by Pereira, second by McDaniel.
Thank you. I'll do roll call. Director Aguilera?
It's Aguilar, but yes.
My apology. Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Hogue? I'm sorry, Director Hogue? Director Lohr?
Yes.
Director McDaniel?
Aye.
Director Murphy?
Yes.
Director Oliveira?
Aye.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
Director Villalta?
Yes, but Stacy, could I ask us one question? If that did occur, where it was in a 2-week window, would you notify all the members of the board ASAP too?
Yes, I can definitely do that. I could, upon the opportunity that arises and staff finds that it's an acceptable exchange and there's not time to go to the board, I can send a notification to the board by email, then execute it, and then put it on the agenda for the next coming agenda as an FYI, as an information item.
Thank you, and still yes.
Thank you. Chair Creighton?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay.
Joy, I believe Director Hogue dropped off and now she's back on.
Wonderful. And for item number 16, Director Hogue?
Yes. Can you
Thank
hear me?
Yes. Thank you. Documented and motion carries unanimously.
Okay, Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority, item number 17, Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority monthly update. Eric, information only.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, board members. I've got an update for you, and we're going to go ahead and put that before you. Bear with me here. Okay. So for tonnages, our tonnages right now are on par with what we had about a year ago in July. And so we seem to hit a plateau of about 44,000 tons for both sites. So there's been no change, which has been a welcome sight. So we're happy about that. So right now, really no change. Billy Wright did see about a couple hundred tons more in the month of July, but this is a good sign. Both sites are doing very, very well.
Okay.
Household hazardous waste event at Highway 59 in July. We had about 100 vehicles participate. We feel that the attendance that was there was received well by the public because of social media, and we did collect twice as much oil at the site. Senate Bill 1383 HF&H, we've got meetings that have been held in this month. They started August 10th. They'll go through August 28th. These are with the individual jurisdictions of Merced County, with the Merced County as well. In these meetings, we're discussing costs. And so we're talking about what it's going to cost to implement these action plans and revealing those costs to the jurisdictions. And this is really the sticker shock meetings. And so we encourage participation at those meetings. They will continue until the end of next week or however they need to continue. What the plan that HF&H has is that they're going to bring back to the board, well, they'll start with the technical review board in September, where they will bring the actual buttoned up action plan that the jurisdiction could then use before their councils. or Board of Supervisors. And so they're going to run that. HF&H is going to have the presentation in September before the TRB to say this is what this is going to look like. They're not going to come to the governing board just yet in the month of September. They're going to take the comment and feedback of the TRB, and they'll come back to the governing board after they meet again with the TRB on any recommended changes from the September meeting in October. So then in October, HF&H will then have the final product to give for what the action plan looks like. There will be an actual physical document that will be given to the jurisdictions that they can take, budget for, and plan as to what it's going to take to implement 1383. And then what they'll be looking for after the governing board meeting in October is that HF&H, we do have a little bit of money where HF&H is going to then be available to present at each of the jurisdictions' councils. And so they will be there to help the staff present and shepherd this action plan to those councils to give them information, which will be important. And so we hope to have that finalized, that should occur between, I'd say December through February at the latest for budget reasons. And then we're looking at spring of 2021 for implementation before the TRB and the governing board, where the authority would come back with an overall plan. And okay, so here's the site at noontime today at the Highway 59 landfill. For those of you that have been out to our site, you know that the Bay Area fires are impacting Merced County in a big way. But this is what the site looked like at noon today. With this, we've had a hard time, as many of you know, we've had vegetation control on our site over the last several weeks. There's a picture to the right there of the sheep that we've been using. Many of the sheep have not been, they were supposed to leave this last week. They were unable to because of the heat. And then with that, now the air quality of what we've got some concerns with some of the cattle, if in fact they'll even leave the site at this point. So I wanted to make you aware, this just came down yesterday. The County of Merced, together with the Health Department and the local enforcement agency, have done a tremendous job with acting and being quick about this. But we did put forward a request for an emergency waiver for our site and our landfill. As you may or may not be aware, we do not take commercial livestock, carcasses. We don't take large carcasses. We take roadkills and things that maybe a farmer has one or two, but commercial carcasses, we're not permitted to take that. And so we sought an emergency waiver. And this waiver is due to the potential for licensed renderers refusing to pick up and process mortality due to an excessive animal mortalities caused by the ongoing heat wave, lack of capacity, condition of the carcasses, or operating problems requiring the subject facilities to receive deceased carcasses on a short-term basis. So this is something I think that's going to help out Merced County. I just encourage you guys to be aware of this. We just got this yesterday and into this morning. So you're the first really to receive this. So we wanted to put that in front of you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, directors, you have any questions?
I got one for Eric. Eric, is it Stacy's birthday? I see happy birthday, Stacy, behind you.
Yes, thank you for that, Eric.
I apologize. I just want to wish my boss a happy birthday. So happy birthday, Stacy.
Very good.
Directors, any questions?
Camera's off because I am beat red. So thank you, Eric.
Okay, thank you, Eric, and happy birthday, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay, item 18, consent calendar or consent agenda action item. Directors?
Chair, this is Director Silvera. Motion to approve.
Second, Laura.
Thank you. I'll call roll call. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta, I'm sorry, Director Villalta,
Yes, I had it on mute.
Thank you. And Chair Creighton?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 19, discussion and direction on flow control implementation. This is an action item. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. Item 19 comes before you as an action item to authorize one of the two following options: to direct staff to draft a policy to relax the flow control requirement for diverted material. We're referring to recycling and organic plant material. We are not referring to trash in option A, for all jurisdictions, to be brought back to the board for discussion and adoption at a future meeting. Or option B, if you will, the second option, direct staff to implement the flow control requirement for all materials: waste, recycling, solid waste, organic plant material, for all jurisdictions. The Authority Joint Powers Agreement establishes flow control for solid waste, recycling, and plant materials generated within the service area, whereby all such materials are required to be directed to one of the Authority landfill sites, which would be Billy Wright or Highway 59. Currently, all 7 jurisdictions are bringing their solid waste to the Authority landfills. In contrast, there are only 3 jurisdictions that are bringing their recyclables to the Authority, and 5 jurisdictions that are bringing their plant materials to the Authority. The Authority is preparing for Senate Bill 1383 compliance, which will involve investments in future infrastructure improvements to the Authority landfill sites in order to process diverted, recyclable, organic plant materials. Therefore, staff is seeking board direction on the future enforcement of flow control for all materials inside the service areas. Staff is recommending the board authorize one of the two options: to direct staff to draft a policy to relax the flow control requirement for diverted material, recycling, organic plant material, for all jurisdictions, not trash, to be brought back to the board for discussion and adoption at a future meeting. So we would bring that policy to you all at another meeting. Or direct staff to implement the flow control requirement for all waste, recycling, material streams, solid waste, recycling, organic plant material, for all jurisdictions. And board, if I could just say that the first option is to give flexibility to what we currently do and what we've been providing to the jurisdictions. The refuse, the trash would continue to go to the Authority. That is what has historically paid the bond payment for the municipal solid waste bond. The recycling has been a pass-through, and so that would continue to be a pass-through for those participating jurisdictions. And then the organics as well is a pass-through. Whereas option 2 is a clear direction at which the Authority would then instruct the jurisdictions to make sure that all 3 streams, trash, blue bin recyclables, and green bin glass clippings, yard clippings, plant material, organics, food, all that, must come to the Authority sites. And so we're looking for direction. This concludes my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm going to open up to the public at this time. Joy, do we have any public comment?
We do not have
I will
any public
defer
comment.
to Mary Michael.
We do
Mary
not have
Michael?
any public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm sorry. I should ask you instead of Joy. Okay, I just want to make a comment on this. I think option A, what Eric was talking about, we've got a few jurisdictions that are heavily recycling. It is a pass-through. It's not a revenue generator. I think we need some time to develop whether we're going to get in the recycling business heavy or not. I like the idea of A. Directors, do you have any questions?
Chair, this is Director Silvera.
Go ahead.
Okay, Eric, thank you for the report. And for me on this particular item, if you're following the letter of it, it says that all trash is supposed to go through, but it doesn't make sense to me that if our bond payment was structured around the actual garbage part that goes to the landfill, and as long as those numbers still stay and everybody's participating in that, and we're able to generate the revenues that we need to pay back our bond payments, it seems to me that if one of our agencies, and I don't care whether it's East County, West County, or one of the cities, if with their individual garbage contractors, if they can get a better deal for their recyclables or recycling programs to go somewhere else, and it doesn't really hurt our bottom line at the 2 waste facilities, I would say that benefit, each one of those jurisdictions. And really, with competition being a good thing, it allows better competition. So I'm in support of option A.
Great comments. Directors, any other questions?
This is Director Murphy.
Murphy, go ahead.
So I share the same sentiments as Chair Creighton and Director Silvera. Just a question though, are there infrastructure investments that we need to make based on projections? That's kind of why I understand we're doing this, right? And let me just ask that first. Is that accurate?
Eric?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Director Murphy. Yes, the 1383 conversation really is the big unknown. We do know of a North Bay material recycling facility that was established by very, the agency had plenty of funds in their general fund. I'll just put it that way. And they spent in the tens of millions of dollars for a organic waste, food and green waste, combined component facility to accept food waste and green waste material combined. So that's kind of getting to the chase of what the 1383 work that HF&H is doing right now. And that is absolutely true. We are all of the jurisdictions are going to have to find a place to take their food waste and organics. And so what option A, and we're looking at January 1 of 2022 when that requirement comes. So any decision that a jurisdiction makes today going forward, they would want to give themselves a way to still respond to 1383. And if they have that response met in their component, it will definitely impact the authority's provisions for the other member jurisdictions. For example, if one of the, if the west side or the east side decides to put an anaerobic digester on their own, that diverts that material away from the authority. There's then not a need for the authority to participate in a multi-million-dollar piece, material recycling facility there. Similarly, if the big tonnages leave, then it would impact the other smaller tonnages per se. And so we would have to structure our facility to still be able to meet everybody's needs. So going forward, that's going to be the question. We would just ask for flexibility in your hauling contracts such that you have right now, I would say 1 to 4 years that we're going to be able to speak to what 1383 is going to have to do for our sites.
Yeah. So I'm generally supportive of A. I think that's probably the right approach. Just sort of a word of caution to all of us that if we opt out, it may be tough to opt back in later once facility sizing has already occurred and costs and so forth. But I'm supportive of A.
Directors, any other questions?
Yes, Director Murphy.
Who's this?
Zalalta.
Yeah.
Yes, I would support the other directors who have spoken already in support of A, and probably just food for thought that LA County is now talking about challenging the bill to have everyone recycle by the end of January of 2022. So that could be pushed back to 2024 with COVID, because like I said, LA County is already challenging this.
Thank you. Any other directors? Direction, this is an action item.
Motion to approve item 19 with option A.
Second, Olivera.
Thank you. I'll do roll call. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hogue. I'm sorry, Director Hogue. Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Pereira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta,
Yes.
Chair Creighton,
Yes.
And I'll try again. Director Hogue?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 20, proposed agenda item for consideration, landfill disposal fees. This is an action item possibly with Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Per our agenda request policy, this item is put on the agenda today at the request of Director Villalta. So for it to be an act, there would need to be an affirmative vote of 6 votes to, at a minimum, to get this placed on a future agenda. And I think the spirit of what this policy is in place for is, should there be an affirmative vote to move forward on this topic, board would give staff direction on how to prepare a future agenda item and to do the homework and research behind it. So I will actually turn it over to Director Villalta for the discussion.
Thank you very much, Stacy. And I just like to make this very simple. I'm asking for a study of the tipping fees, of which have not been done in a long time, and let's see what they come up with. Because right now we have varying tipping fees, and as to why they are what they are, we don't have any board minutes any place that justifies that. So it's about time. Let's put forth a tipping fee study.
Okay, Stacy, this is Chair Creighton.
Yes.
Can you share with the board if there's a what kind of costs that would involve in that, and answer Volta's statement on that's true, that we haven't?
Yeah, and I might need to call in Eric too, because we've done quite a bit of research on this, but the fees the tipping fees have not changed from the early 2000s and maybe even further. There have been a couple of studies, and Eric, please, I hope you can tell me when the last study was. So they've been looked at as early, I think, as 2007. Eric, is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. So the R3 study was 2006, January 19th of 2006, and the R3 study gives the most information. It actually has, and it's in your packets, but it actually has a tip fee rate structure and discusses the differentials. And so that document is the best that the authority has to really discuss how the rates were developed and why they are what they were today. And that was, if for those that do recall, that was in preparation for the solid waste bond, is why that was done. Now, the subsequent reports that were done were in concert with other projects and other work. And so there was a study done by SCS, I believe, in 2014, and really it relied upon the R3 work. So it didn't really add to it. And so we have not had anything, as Director Villalta has said, there's really nothing there that gives us anything more clear than the January 2006 R3 study.
Okay.
Chair Creighton, this is Director Silvera.
Go ahead, Silvera.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's in anything that we do in government, to go from having a study the last time it was done in 2006, that's quite a few years, 15 years, 14 years by my count since the last time. And I think it's, if for no other reason, just to make sure that we're collecting tipping fees in an appropriate manner based upon, because I'm highly confident that our cost of doing business is more today than it was in 2006. So I would support Director Villalta's request to look at our rate study, do a rate study. And I'm sure that there's a cost associated with it, but in some cases, that's the cost of doing business.
Good comments. Directors, any other questions? Okay, we're looking for direction on this.
I move to have it placed on the agenda.
Excuse me?
This is McDaniel. I move to have the proposed item put on the next agenda.
Okay.
Director McGann, or Director Creighton.
Yes, sir.
And Director McDaniels, may I add that put it on the agenda to vote on approving a rate study?
I think
That
that's
is
what
my
McDaniel just
motion.
made that. That was his motion.
Oh,
That is
okay.
my motion.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
Are you
Mr.
seconding
Chair?
that?
I'm seconding that.
Chair, this is Director Swear. Just a quick question. I would, it's, so the motion is to have them do the rate study and have it be on the next agenda. I don't know if that time-wise is possible.
No, it's to bring it back for us to vote to have the rate study, because the way it is now, it's a proposed agenda item. So my motion is proposing the proposition to be put on the agenda next time, and maybe staff could have a cost for the study as well.
Wait, Director McDaniel?
Yes.
Instead of making it a really short time frame, it's been since 2007, can we just ask staff to bring it back when they're ready with the cost?
Sure.
Go ahead, Stacy.
I was just going to confirm that yes, that is the case. We can bring back a proposal. It could be a very kind of big picture scope of what the study would entail, and kind of the ballpark cost for such a study, looking at what we've done in the past and what kind of the industry standard is. So we can pull that together for the agenda.
Okay, so the
As a maker of the motion, I am okay with that. That's perfect.
Chair Creighton?
Go ahead, Villalta.
Yes, Stacy, would you be able to do that at the next agenda item, or next in September?
I can. I hear your urgency, Director Villalta, and so I'm going. I will say I will give it. We will do everything we can to get it on September. And I don't think I see an issue with that, but I also just want some spot of reservation in the event that Eric is pulling his hair out on the other side of his camera. but I think for what you're asking, we can get that on with a ballpark figure of what it would, what we would need for a budget. I think we can get the bones out to the board in September, and you would essentially be directing staff to procure a study. And
right.
then there will need to be more time to put in the cost estimate and to develop the scope of work and put out the RFP and that kind of thing. But I think for what I'm hearing, we can get that on in September.
Thank you.
Joy, can you repeat the motion, Joy, so everybody knows?
Yes. Directing staff to approve a staff report on the next agenda to procure a study for disposal fees.
Okay, you had a motion and a second. Did you need?
I would agree to that.
Okay, so you had McDaniel and Villalta. McDaniel was the motion, second by Villalta.
Wonderful. I'll do roll call. Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Hold on, Chair.
Ferrer, go ahead.
So just as far as a comment, before we go spending a lot of money on a rate study, would you also look and see if our staff could do that? Because I mean, I think we're talking about expenses and tonnages, and I mean, it seems like we kind of have a lot of that information already available. And so, just look at that as an option that staff would do the study as well.
Okay, McDaniel, you're the maker of the motion. Did you want to change that?
Sure. I mean, yeah, that could, or any other options that are available too that staff stumbles onto as they're approaching to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yes, I would just add that we will absolutely follow up on Director Pereira's suggestion, and we can provide in that agenda item take a look at our tonnages, take a look at good months versus bad months, and come up with an idea of if we were to do a across the board per ton kind of fee, and bring that back. We'll also look at what was spent in the past of the prior study. How much did we spend on that? We can add some increase to that for what we're doing going out, and we'll make some phone calls, and we'll bring back to this board information for, this is what we believe this is going to look like, and this is what the procurement process would entail at this cost or a cost.
Okay. Roll call.
Chair Creighton, I also agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start over. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira, Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta,
Yes, and thank you all members.
Chair Creighton.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Other reports, item 21, Executive Director's Report. Stacy, information only.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any additional items other than to mention that we are expecting our ballistic glass to arrive next week, and we hope to complete our construction project to the front lobby by the end of this month, and we're all very excited about that. I'll be sure to send you pictures. Other than that, if there are any questions about, I sent an email update earlier this week, and then again about a week and a half ago. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Directors, any questions? Hearing none, move on to item number 22, Director's Reports. Joy, can you go through the list?
Director Aguilar,
Nothing to report, but happy birthday, Stacy.
Director Hogue,
Happy birthday, Stacy. And I applied for the next mayorship, and nobody ran against me. So you got me for 4 more years. So other than that, nothing.
thank you. Director Lohr,
Happy birthday, Stacy, and congratulations, April.
Thank you.
Director McDaniel,
Nothing to report.
Director Murphy,
Happy birthday, Stacy, and nothing else.
thank you. Director Oliveira,
Happy birthday, Stacy, and nothing to report.
thank you. Director Pereira,
Yes, 2 things. One is, could staff look into the possibility of having each agenda item be a link that takes you to the backup information? Instead of just the page number out to the side, where if you clicked on an item, it pulls, it has a link to that information.
Yes,
Look at if it's possible.
Yes, thank you.
Well, since you're willing to do that, then happy birthday.
thank you. Director Silvera,
Nothing to report. Thank you.
thank you. Director Villalta,
Was that a trade-off, Lloyd? If she didn't do it, you weren't going to wish her a happy birthday?
Well, I already wished her happy birthday on Facebook. So
Oh, okay. All right. You're exonerated. Good thing you aren't in Rotary, Stacy. It would cost you a lot of money for each happy birthday someone wished you. Well, happy birthday from me also. No other reports.
thank you. Chair Creighton,
Happy birthday, Stacy. Nothing to report. Thank you, directors. Meeting
Thanks
adjourned.
for meeting, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Aye, thank you.